See, they still got the bells. So, ultimately, man, I just want to talk about Noble Drew Ali and why he is so vital in our lives, but how he has been vital in my life, because not even biological parents or biological, guardians or whatever, relatives, not even them emphasize the importance of a citizenship. And one of the things that I find very impressive that Noble Drew Ali wrote down was that gold and silver are reserved for the citizens alone. So that means that your citizenship can give you access to the wealth of nations. That's a really good book that I recommend people read, that had been perverted by Karl Marx to become some other propaganda to inflict poverty and apartheid in the center of the continent of the Americas and South, to ultimately conspire and create incorporated nations within the Americas. So it all goes really to like these banking monopolies, right? So one of the things that I want to emphasize is that when I had got my passport, that was something that Drew Ali emphasized because of the effort within civics to be a national in this particular landmass that's huge. It's a huge landmass, and it's still very much a part of the greater empire that now has become a new egregor and a new ontology. But another reason why I think Noble Drew Ali is such a genius is because he said that gold and silver is reserved for the citizens of a nation alone. So if we look at the periodic table of elements, much of the elements that are in the periodic table when it comes to the sciences and all the stuff that's really just been pioneered by scientists via mathematics and algebra, which all really stems back to the greater empire, or the empire that was fueled by the political systems of Islam and the cultural aspects of Islam, the pre-ancient old world aspects of Islam, not the religious aspects. All the elements that are in the periodic table, gold, silver, copper, tin, all of that stuff is in your cell phone right now. And we know how vital these particular devices, be it in the form of a handheld smartphone or in the form of a computer, no matter what, big or small, this is how our financial world is afloat at the moment, and this is the way that it's growing laterally. It's still spreading and it's still becoming something. And it's very logical to look at this when you actually apply your citizenship and see other aspects of these metropolises that our ancestors contributed to simply when you just travel, right? So that's something that I noticed very much, that in the Americas, North and South, the word, and this is another reason why I think Noble Drew Ali is a genius, because he said we are Moorish Americans, or we are Moorish. No matter if you're speaking to a Eurocentric, Frankist mind, who obviously are the people that are obviously opposed to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, when you're speaking to them and you say the word Moorish and their mind shoots back to Andalusia and the North African Moors, it's still a solid genealogical argument as to what our descendancy is as the pioneers of Western civilization in accord with this Christianized calendar in the Western Hemisphere. The Romanized, Julius Caesar, Roman, United States, Christian calendar, all that stuff, it still aligns with it. Now, another reason why it's genius, because Latin, English, and Spanish. You have Latin America, and then you have Spanish people, Spanish as a country, and you have Spanish Empire, you have Spanish countries all in South America, and then you have English countries, English language, right? English people. So what is Moorish at this point? Is not South America and North America still considered to be Moorish because it was the Moors that had dominion prior to the development of these English and Spanish dominions in that history over there? Now, another reason why he's a genius, Noble Drew was a genius, as well as Charles Moseley Bay. You have the architecture and you have these arcs right here. You can go right now contemporarily online and you just put Moorish buildings and Moorish architecture, and it is 100% proof in today's real time that that is what it is, because we were not just giant autochthonous dreadlock, swarthy red, sometimes even as dark as being green skinned people over here in the Americas, but we were also architects and mathematicians that also innovated and made things that were sacred and holy all across Asia. And that's the status quo. You see the arcs right there. So all of these buildings and these churches and things like that, that's all stone. All of this stuff is clearly governmental level or royalty level things that existed prior to the establishment of the United States as a modern day country, right? Some people will say it's a corporation, but we know that we already know this, because there are people who are not by any means vested in the posterity of actual autochthonous, indigenous Muskogee, Yamasi, Guanahatebe, Siboney, Cimarron, Muntu, Aniawea, Gullah Geechee. There's people, Creole, Maoris, Maroons. There's people that is not at all invested in the posterity of these people if they are in their proper person and know who the hell they actually are, and they're not going to take no nonsense for degrading themselves down to the level of being in place of a democratic hierarchy. Most people are not really vested in our posterity, and unfortunately this is the war against us who do have this vested interest in a financial dynamic, in a financial world, in a financial realm that is now being co-opted, right? So law, civics is being co-opted by commerce and banking, and that is the truth. Because another reason why I think Drew Ali was a genius, not just because of what he did with saying that we are Moorish by our ancestry and by being Nicaraguan, Peruvian, Ecuadorian, Colombian, Cuban, Dominican, all of these people by way of the Clock of Destiny, AA222141 by CM Bay. And there's that's a whole nother discussion of like morale and ethics and ontology that we also need to understand is very vital, very pivotal as to why we abstain from being amongst the unfortunate ones. The unfortunate ones today are those of us that we know are Moorish, descend of either Moors that are giants in the America, M-U-U-R-ish, Moorish, or we're talking about the Moors that pioneered all of this modern Western world today, Moorish. We know that we're descendants, the ruddy-haired, nappy-headed, swarthy, dark-skinned, magical people, right? We know that. We know this, but we are amongst unfortunate ones that cannot seem to piece together and break the sorcery and break the spell of seeing themselves and others colorblind by means of this mental apartheid. This is a complete attack on what we would say in Latin, puers, souls, beings. It's abuse. It's really mental abuse of your cognitive and your receptors, like how you receive and neurologically process information by means of the stress, the narcotics, the branding, the marketing, the propaganda, and essentially things that are very irrelevant to the grandeur of what your ancestors contributed to in this continent. Okay, when we talk about American revolutions, we're talking about diasporas of people for hundreds of years, from the zero before the calendar and after the calendar, that moved all throughout Louisiana as Creole dynasties and Creole empires, that moved from the territory of Florida today, that moved from the territory of Arizona today, that moved from the territory of the Gulf of Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Colombia, people that have been moving up and down this continent. It's really the same people. You look at the Buffalo Soldier, the Buffalo people, and the Buffalo Soldier song by the Marleys, right? We're talking about the same people. KRS-One and all these hip hop guys, they're very much aware of this, but in the end, their generation has been so stricken with being branded mentally that they're almost as if an embodied labor for a modern paradigm that really has nothing to do with your posterity as the greatness of the people that contributed to the entire continent. And now we have these people that are able to obfuscate their shortcomings and their bad character by means of a Western Christianism or Western Catholicism or Western Islamicism or a Western ideology, or by means of scapegoating with economics, or by means of publicly lamenting and all of these other things that put off their ultimate retribution if we see it as such. This is not a call for the injustice. This is not a call for those to answer for their contributions to worldwide propaganda, especially against people in Manila, Tondo, Bangsamoro, and Sri Lanka. It's not a call against Kartarpur. It's not a call. It's really not a call against the genocides, but it's just what it is. And this is why Nobunaga Ali is a genius. And before he passed, he said that it was a sin for us to be using these color labels, to be calling each other black. It's a sin because that is a legalized mal prohibitus form of sorcery. It's a mal prohibitus form of trickery. It's a mal prohibitus form of turbulence, hysteria. It's a subtle act of attrition, right? It's a subtle act of attrition. It weakens your spirit. It weakens who you are. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your culture. Nothing wrong with being black and proud from the standpoint of seeing that it's a group of people in North America and worldwide that identify with that. There's nothing wrong with that in itself, especially when we're considering it as an object or a noun or a contribution. But it becomes a problem when it's just one group and all of humanity having to constantly compound you with that group and be capitalized on for you not to receive any benefits. So that's where a lot of Moorish Americans today, with their genius, are starting to understand that there's an element of finance that's missing, and that's exactly where we as modern day brothers, we need to take our banking responsibilities as either trustees or settlers, and really push ourselves to be a little bit more to be a little bit more morale, to be a little bit more in trust, to be a little bit more confiding, and to kind of break out of the hierarchy and the caste system of this Western civilization, because our Noble Drew Ali, the beloved, he suffered from finance issues, and so did Charles Mosley Bay. He suffered from finance issues. He suffered from the fact that he wasn't able to just be brilliant and travel the world, right? Just like our people today, we go from Florida to Texas and Florida to California, and we think that we know everything, but that's blasphemy when with just $3,000 to $7,000, sometimes just $500 in any foreign nation that doesn't run on U.S. dollar group economics, you're dominant in every single realm. That's why the Constitution is very essential, because just by us being raised in this particular society, when we do leave and we go to other areas, we can operate solely on morale and our dollar and still find our way to beyond naturalization, still find our way into favor in other nations, as long as we are upholding our morality, because we operate on morality. Okay, that's just how it is. Man, sweet generous, the Jor operates on morality. Commerce, maritime, marine, military, that operates on water. Okay, the de facto realms work in conjunction, and that has to do with these establishments that we created as structures, right? And these structures are what will help us to catapult, or help us to wayfare, right? Not warfare, but to wayfare. There's nothing wrong with you having money, any form of quid pro quo, something for something, any form of something for something, so that somebody else has a means of providing a livelihood and energy, not just for you, but for themselves, you know. So there are many different Moorish Americans that see Noble Drew Ali as almost like a Christ figure, and then, you know, how I'm seeing him as like almost like the father figure that I never had, or somebody in my family that I never had, and show me that you come from a dynasty of Murabids, Almoravids, Almorabituns, Moros, Morenos, Moors, Moors, right? So it's really magnificent, to be totally honest with you, that I'm able to even have this much common sense to even articulate this this level of appreciation for a brother like that. And like I said, he's a genius, because we're talking about now an ish suffix that still, by means of contemporary Al-Andalusian, prior to the Emirates and the Caliphates and the Muhammads and the Sultans of furthest West Asia on the Atlantic coasts of both sides of the Americas, and the furthest west of south of Europa, and Al-Kebulan, Mali, Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria, Tunis, and all of these areas, it's still very much relevant. Moorish, Spanish, English, right? Or if we adding as a morpheme, right? Pheme, a morpheme, the suffix of ish to Murish, right? So I'm your brother, man, Marcoelboriken. This is what it is. And for those of you that don't know, my father's name was Marco Antonio Romero. He deceased and passed away based on a lot of substance abuse issues and mental health problems that a lot of our brothers north and south of this continent have to deal with, and a lot of the sorcery aspect as well. But when he did pass away, it was a sense of relief for me. And then when he did pass away, I found out who Drew Ali was just 3 months after that. And my whole life changed because I had found a different means of gratitude for not just my name as Marco, right? My name is Mark Anthony, but his name was Marco Antonio. I do the etymology and I do the knowledge on who was Marco Antonio, and I see that there was a whole bunch of generals that were Marco Antonios all up and down Latin America, South America, Moorish America, and then also Marcus Aurelius or Marcelio or Marcello. These are all generals that were part of the Byzantine and Roman Empire that is so-called West Asian European or Roman or Italian or whatever it is that they say that they are, which in the end it's all Moorish. So I found a lot of pride in that. I found a lot of power. I've found times where I'm opening up Spanish dictionaries that are all written in Cuba with Cuban vernacular down in Puerto Rico and in Ecuador, and sometimes I open these books and I see these melanated figures of history and events that happened between the years of the medieval times and the dark ages of like 700 all the way to 1492, or sometimes BC times all the way to 1492, and I'm seeing these depictions and I see these melanated warriors, especially Marcus Aurelius and all these other guys in real depictions in real time, and then I tell myself, wow, I can't believe that I come from, even if I'm looking at it from a Greek or a Roman or a European means of genealogy, it's still very profound for me to come from empire pioneering people that contributed to so much grandeur to what everybody else seems to be benefiting from, and I myself as well. But I'm Marcoel now, Marcoelboriken, and I chose to put the Boriken after my El surname just because of respect for my brother that wrote the book Ibri, because I learned that there was a Hebreo, Ibri, Sephardim group of people that crossed the Atlantic Ocean as the Elohim's will, and that is very symbolic for me to understand Morocco, Amazigh, Berbers that had fled or fought against their counterparts and cousins that were all military men for Rome that had broken up into different dynasties of Spanish, Portuguese, the Leons, and some of them retired on both sides. Some of them went into rogue situations on both sides and found themselves crossing the Atlantic, and a good example of this would be Ponce de Leon. Fought on the side of the Inquisition that was against the contemporary Moors and or the Muslims during the Holy Wars, and he found himself establishing an entire province that's completely Moorish in what we call today Puerto Rico, called Ponce de Leon, with a fountain in the middle and everything. So their brother was he had a very long beard like mine, but it was longer and white, and he had very nappy white hair as well. So he after his service to that particular war, he established something in Puerto Rico. So I always keep that in mind as to like who I am by my Boricua roots, because I know that Boricua and Boriken are synonymous with lords that did come to the island, not as the original Guanahate Bay, Siboney, Cimarron, Taínos. They eventually intermixed with them, but they were military men and lords that came on to answer the calls of the greater Creole dynasty and empire that was in the Americas, because the Americas was always the citadel and the hub as a continent for all types of ingenuity, especially in agriculture and in culture, and a lot of beautiful things like algodón, yuca, tobacco, maize, and medicines, and alkaline ways of living, right? And you know, just organic ways of life. So I'm your boy Marcoelboriken. I just wanted to share why I feel Drew Ali and why I know Drew Ali was a genius, an absolute genius. Charles Mosley Bay as well, absolute genius. And a lot of the people in South America, they're going through some really tough ontological trials and tribulations, and I genuinely wish that they come around to knowledge of self, because I think knowledge of self is actually the issue that we're having, in conjunction with not knowing how to use our resources. So it really is about that time to wake up a little bit and realize what it is that we have to do. I'm also the co-founder of Moorish, just so you guys know, on record, and I'm telling you face to face, I'm telling you straight from here in your face that yes, I am the only amalgamated brother, right? Boricua, amalgamated brother. You know, I have a skin deficiency that I have to actually build up the melanin in my body. I have to work on these things, okay? I'm not blessed and graced to constantly have, you know, swarthy genetic opulence like that. So I have to put in the work. Yes, I'm the only one that has this deficiency in the family. I am the leopard of the family, right? Everybody else in the Moors of Light, they're beautiful, you know, dreadhead brothers, and just opulent, all 6'3", 6'4", magnanimous warrior brothers, right? So I have so much pride, and I have so much orgullo. I have so much love for these guys. And for my people too, as a descendant through my mother's entire lineage, being she was born there, her mother was born there, and her mother was born there, in Cuba, Santiago Oriente. So that's a whole nother story. My history and my genealogy and my story and how I came to knowledge of self is so profound, and I love to just overshare and tell the world these types of things, and I'm very careful as to what information and what videos I put on the internet, because I have so much energy, and I just am ecstatic about this this life that we in right now, because there's so many opportunities, and we are able to contemporarily share these times here right now in this lifetime, despite our conditions being different. Se puede cruzar, sí, sí. But yeah, I'll let you guys go. Love, true peace, freedom, and justice. I'm your boy Marcoelboriken. More light.